Alright, we have not done a ton of Catholic videos, maybe only like one or two over the years, but with the passing of the Pope, I found this interesting video called How to Become the Pope, which is done by the CGP Grey YouTube channel. So it's just an animation that describes on how to become a Pope, and I thought it'd be fascinating to kind of learn some of the dynamics about it and what it takes, and maybe a little bit more about the Pope. So anyway, won't keep you guys waiting. Let's get into it.
Let's say you want to become Pope, head of the Catholic Church, and shepherd to over 1 billion faithful. What requirements must you have for this lofty position? First, be a Catholic, and second, be a man. Which seems a little thin, and while it's technically possible for a regular Sunday Catholic to become Pope, the last time this happened was essentially never, because becoming Pope isn't like becoming president. You can't just run for office. Selecting the Pope is an inside job, and the men who do it are the cardinals, and while in theory they can select any Catholic man to become Pope, in practice they prefer to elevate one of their own. The last time a non-cardinal became Pope was more than 600 years ago, so while it isn't an official requirement, it's an unofficial official requirement. Thus, in order to become Pope, you'll first need to be a cardinal, and to do that, you need to start climbing the Catholic corporate ladder. Step 1. Become a priest. Unlike some churches where you can just fill out a form online and poof, ordained, the Catholic Church treats becoming a priest as a real, you need training profession, so you're going to require a lot of education, usually a college degree in Catholic philosophy and then a master's in divinity. In addition to your educational qualifications, you must also be a man, unmarried, and willing to remain celibate. If you meet these requirements and have been working with the church, then you can be officially ordained as a priest, which basically means you get to run a Catholic church or work with another priest who does. But you want to move onward, and to do that you need to take the job of the man who just made you a priest. Step 2. Become a bishop. Bishops are a much more select group. While there are about 400,000 Catholic priests worldwide, there are only about 5,000 bishops. While priests get churches, bishops get cathedrals, from which they oversee a number of local churches. To advance your career, you must wait for a bishop in your area to be forced into retirement at age 75 or die sooner than that, freeing up space for you. But you can't just apply, because there's already a secret list of potential bishops that's updated every 3 years based on who the current bishops in your area think would make a good replacement for one of their own. To be on that list, in addition to the obvious requirement of being a pious person, you should also be at least 35 years old, have been a priest for at least 5 years, and have a doctorate in theology or equivalent. Assuming you're all these things, your name may or may not be on the secret list. The local bishops then give that list to the Pope's ambassador for your country, known as the Apostolic Nuncio. The Nuncio picks 3 priests from the list, does in-depth research on them, conducts interviews, and selects the one he thinks is best. But it's not over, because the Nuncio sends his report to Vatican City and the Congress of Bishops who work there, reviewing potential appointments from around the world. If the Congress of Bishops doesn't like any of the 3 candidates, they can tell the Nuncio to start over, returning to the list, picking another 3 candidates, doing more research, more interviews, and sending off the results. When the Congress of Bishops is happy with one of the Nuncio's candidates, that name is given to the Pope, who can reject the candidate and start the whole process over. It shouldn't be a surprise that from vacancy to a bishop's replacement can take months and on occasion years. But assuming a bishop in your area retired or died at the right time, and you were on the secret list of good priests, and the Nuncio picked you, and you made it through his interview, and the Congress of Bishops approved you, and the Pope didn't veto you, poof, now you're a bishop. But you're still not on top. The penultimate promotion is step number 3, become a cardinal. Despite the fancy name and snazzy red outfits to match, cardinals are not the bosses of bishops. They are bishops, just with an additional title and additional responsibilities, the most notable of which is electing the new pope. The only way to become a cardinal is to get the current pope to appoint you as one, and of the 5,000 bishops, only about 200 are ever cardinals. But let's say your ambition doesn't go unnoticed by the pope and he makes you a cardinal. Now it's time to play the waiting game for his death or retirement, and with popes, death is vastly more likely. When either happens, the cardinals under the age of 80 are brought to Vatican City, where they are isolated from the outside world, presumably by taking away their cell phones and tablets and carrier pigeons. Once sequestered, the election of a new pope can begin. These elections are never exactly the same because the ex-pope leaves instructions on how he wants his replacements to be picked, but in general it works like this. 4 times a day, the cardinals go to the Sistine Chapel to vote, and to become pope, one of them must get a 2/3 majority. There's a big dose of mustn't be too hasty here, as the cardinals don't just raise their hands or use a modern preferential voting system, but instead write down one name on a piece of paper, stand before the altar, and say a long Latin phrase before officially casting the ballot. Once all the cardinals have done this, the votes are counted and then burned. This is why TV news stations covering the election of pope use super modern HD live streaming cameras to look at a chimney. If the smoke is black, no new pope. The high victory threshold and tediously slow voting process is why it takes so long to elect a pope. It's usually at least 2 weeks of voting, 4 times a day, 6 days a week, with 1 day a week reserved for prayer, but the record length is 3 years. Assuming you eventually win the support of your fellow cardinals, you have one final thing to do before becoming pope. Pick yourself a new name. There's no formal rule, and you can name yourself anything you like, but it's tradition to take the name of a previous pope. Upon the acceptance of your new name, the final ballots are burned clean to make the smoke turn white and announce to the world that a new pope has been selected. So that's the career path. Be born into the right half of the population, become one of 1 billion Catholics, then one of 400,000 priests, then one of 5,000 bishops, then one of 200 cardinals, wait for the current pope to die or retire, and convince 2/3 of your fellow cardinals to select you as the one, the only pope.
No sweat, easy peasy, right? Just a few steps to get in there.
All that trouble to pick a pope. You know, I'm not trying to be profane or anything. I'm just thinking that seems like a pretty rigorous process. They eliminate a lot of the rigor by narrowing it down to one gender, which I'm not necessarily for or anything.
Yeah.
But I'm also not a big one guy is the leader thing anymore. If we were in some kind of tribe in the jungle and all of us were manic and crazy and running around with our heads, like chickens with their heads cut off, and there was one stable wise guy that was like, look, I'm the oldest, I'm strongest, I've been here the longest, I know what we need to do, then I could see electing a big man to be in charge. But I'm saying at this point in the world, we got one guy in any position overseeing multitudes. To me, the math doesn't make sense to me. But again, not trying to be profane or criticize. So there's that aspect of it. And this seems rigorous. Nevertheless, they take some steps out to expedient it. It still seems the record was 3 years. Yeah. Saying all stuff we already know to say.
Well, I thought. Oh, sorry. Finish.
All to say, maybe you have the answer to this. I'm pretty ignorant. Maybe we need to do more videos on Catholicism. What does the Pope actually do once he's the Pope after all that?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I would assume that's some type of a leadership role in guiding the church. And if there is some type of modification or change that, things he would like to see done differently in the church, it would be kind of a top-down approach. I thought that the new pope was a little bit more. I thought the new pope was a little bit more friendly to kind of the LGBT community, and he kind of started that.
I get it,
and then that kind of
I get it. You got to believe in God to believe in a pope, right?
I guess that might be part of it. Yeah,
to ignore the math, to ignore the logic, and actually have one guy that's a messenger of God. Yeah. He's appointed through rigor, through holy men, to be picked. You actually, prerequisite would be that you got to believe in God.
I'm sure there's something like that, yeah.
There might be some heathen secular way of looking at it, no. See, if you take God out of the equation, they still need a spiritual leader to guide them because these people are animals. There might be some logic way of doing it, but I'm saying for people that sincerely believe in the legitimacy of the Pope, it seems that a prerequisite is a belief in God.
Yeah.
And then what kind of God are we talking about? It's got to be the Jesus
Christian version
of God. Yeah. Okay, so that settles why all that information went into my head.
Well, there was also, I thought, did they mention this? That the Pope, I thought the Pope was supposed to be a direct descendant from Peter at some point.
Okay.
But I never heard anything in there, but I've definitely heard that before. And then that kind of got changed around, I think. I don't know.
Direct descendant of Peter, that would have taken a lot of rigor too, because you'd have to keep track.
Go back to the verse where Jesus says, I will build my church on the cornerstone or something like that.
Yeah. There's a reason for why.
Peter.
I know what you're talking about. The Almighty guy, I think, mentioned something to do with it, right? It's got to go all the way back to
Peter.
Assumedly, that's what we think so far. So that's got to take a lot of work keeping that track of that bloodline.
Yeah.
It's thousands of years, right?
Yeah. And how do you keep that lineage if the Pope isn't allowed to have sex?
The Pope isn't allowed to have sex?
Yeah. Or maybe you're allowed to have sex before you become Pope. I don't know.
All good questions, correct?
So much I don't know there.
The big question mark to me is why?
Yeah.
Is why all of this? And then that's where you get into the realm of people that are willing to deconstruct things and people that go, I'm offended you're even asking why. I'm a little irritated. My skin's crawling that you asked.
Well, when it comes to leaders, people, it's like a thing that we do collectively is like when we don't have a leader, is like if you take a leader out, we instantly try to find a replacement for it. We like, I think, humans in general.
Who does?
I think
There's
not you.
How many billions of people are on the planet? What are we up to?
At the 7 or 8 billion?
8 billion?
7 or 8 billion?
8 billion people.
But people like to have leaders of their organizations.
What people? And if you
know.
answer in TV land out there and say, all people, broke the buzzer off on that one. No, you need to deconstruct more to really figure out what the hell is going on. Why we still have one guy ruling over millions of people in any facet, whether it's religious or political. Why is there one guy? Oh, wait. Okay, so it's one guy. So he's the most genius human on the planet, right? He's got an IQ of like 400. He's physically fit. He could defend himself. He knows molecular physics. He knows how to heal cancer. He knows he's that guy, right? No, he's like a guy that was a game show host and owned a casino for a while in the 90s. And that's who we want to lead, to have his finger on the bomb.
Yeah.
So no, when you say people want there to be a leader in charge, that's false.
I say some people. I'm not saying all people.
Take it easy. Take it easy. People would say what you say. They wouldn't say what I say.
Yeah.
People would agree with you. They don't agree with me. But I'm saying they're wrong, you 90%ers. You're wrong. People don't want that. People do that. People vote for that. But in terms of want, they don't know what the hell they want. They don't know what they're doing. They're still doing the process of electing one guy. So you don't get to elect one guy to oversee a million people and still claim to know what's going on. That's ridiculous. So anyway, I just want to point out the inherent ridiculous in all our machinations of humanity and all these things we constructed. Like I said, they're probably born from necessity from ancient times. A lot of the stuff we do probably started off as like necessity.
For sure.
But has become ritualistic at this point.
Well, we've seen, and that's why we don't have kings and queens anymore. And we
There's
have
still kings and queens.
Not
Some
as
places
much.
still
There might be the odd
changed.
monarchy here and there,
Yes.
but I'm just saying for the most part. And then we develop these political systems, which, you know, they span out and they become bigger and bigger. And hopefully the guy who's at top doesn't have as much power. That's why people fear, say, someone like Trump, because they say that he's trying to strip away all that so he can become like a demigod.
I don't even know what power is, but I know that some people seem to want there to be an idea of a guy with all the power. I actually don't know how much power Trump or Trudeau or anybody, Putin, I don't know quantifiably, and I think that somebody that grabs the low-hanging fruit and is like, well, I do, because look, you can Google it. That's low-hanging fruit. I'm not, whatever, I discard that. I spit it out of my mouth as lukewarm. I'm saying, I don't even know what power is, but I'm saying they're clearly... we're collectively as humanity want to believe that it's possible to have power and like play out the pageantry of a power dynamic. Let's play that out, because who knows, maybe I'll have the power one day. That's more like what's going on, and I'm saying we can do better. Just like all those positions have evolved over time. Hey, even the Pope, like you said, getting into LGBTQ, unheard of 100 years ago. How to blasphemy!
Yeah.
If he's lightening his thing, all things can change. We can all change, and the future can change. And maybe one day we can go, the next pope will go, you know what? No more popes. I'm going to be the last pope. How's that? People go, but we'll be okay. We'll be okay. Change is coming. Hopefully change is coming.
Well, we'll leave it there, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, share this with a friend, and everyone until next time,
Stay spiritual.